And that's what I love about America and about the barbecue community in particular. So it's very family community driven. And here's the thing, you put in the effort, you get the rewards. You know? Don't sit there and be a slacker. You know, don't sit there and moan and be a victim. We haven't got time for victims. And the barbecue community is a lot like that. And they look at you and they see you grinding and they see you put the effort in. They welcome you. And that's what I love, you know, and I compare the barbecue community to the biker community as well. They're very much like a brotherhood family, not necessarily stick together. I don't want to make that sound like it's isolation, but help each other grow, develop each other. I love that. For me, that's what it's all about, because without people like, and there's so many names, I can't even mention them all, but without people like Cal and Janet and the NBBQA, anybody that's not part of the NBBQA should be part of the NBBQA if you're involved in barbecue.
Listen, learn, get inspired. I'm Tavis Bryant, and this is BBQ Therapy. Like, subscribe, and follow to help grow the barbecue therapy community. Also, visit my website at www.bbqtherapypodcast.com.
Bring on down, barbecue, your barbecue on. Get your barbecue on. Get your barbecue on.
Welcome to the BBQ Therapy Podcast. Before Texas, before the barbecue events, before LifeSpace became part of the American barbecue culture, there was another chapter in your life. Can you tell me a little bit about South Africa and how did outdoor cooking come into your life while you were in South Africa?
Listen, South Africa is a wonderful place. The weather's great, the people great. Outdoor cooking is what it's all about. In South Africa, we call it braai. So braai directly relates to grilling, which is essentially live fire cooking, outdoor cooking. South Africa is a wonderful place, and that's what people do. Braai unites people. Braai brings people together. We sort of loved it. That's what it's all about. Friendly people reuniting and uniting people. And in South Africa, we lived a very, very prosperous life. It's nice. It's relatively inexpensive to live there, so it's not very expensive. But the problem is it's a country sort of in steep decline. It's become quite dangerous. Lots of corruption, things like that. Service delivery is non-existent, and you're constantly living with an underlying fear of something that's going to happen. And especially for parents, having kids in South Africa, it's dangerous these days. But South Africa is a beautiful country, beautiful people, love outdoor cooking, love braai. Yeah, so moving to America was not because of the culture or anything like that. It was just mainly because we started feeling unsafe.
Okay. And I was looking online about the braai. Is it true that they got certain rules when it comes to braai as far as what you cook with and certain aspects that you do?
So listen, like you get pit masters here and grill masters here, there you have braai masters. And one of the golden rule is you don't interfere with a man's braai, like ever. You can do any number of things, but you don't touch his fire. You don't mess with his fire. You don't even give him advice. It's like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek sacrilege to mess with someone's braai. The host, it's his fire. He takes care of his fire. And everybody else makes sure that he has a drink in his hand, that he's well looked after, he's got to be rehydrated. And that's what braai is all about. It's a camaraderie. If he asks you to help, only then do you help. When the meat starts burning or something and he says, Rob, jump in here, come help us with the fire, that's when you get involved. But yeah, listen, braai is a culture. Braai in South Africa it's like live fire cooking, barbecue, everything in one. And it's very much a part of life. People will go out for dinner, for example, in South Africa and get home from dinner at 11 o'clock at night, light a fire and have a braai. That's how it is.
Sounds cool. So it is true. All right. So you started LifeSpace in 2011. Was that your first time being an entrepreneur, and how did you get into that?
No. So, ever since I can remember, I've wanted to be an entrepreneur. It started when I was young. I was still in school. I would sell flowers for my grandmother. She would do these like dried flower arrangements, and I'd go and sell them at flea markets and markets like that. And then in 1985 or something, out of necessity, I had to get a job. And I applied for a job with a company called Eskom. And I ended up working with them. But while I was working with them, they gave me a lot of training, and I got a mentor by the name of Tony Goslin, a really good guy. And he could see in me that, listen, I wasn't meant to be an employee. I was meant to be an entrepreneur. And he guided and coached me and gave me literature. And I did various courses, business management and things like that, my 10 years in Eskom. They looked after me. It was my first and only job. And then I went on my own and I started my first business. Since then, I've had multiple businesses, some successful, some not so successful, lost a lot of money. And then we went into ranching. So listen, this is a long story. So I then started ranching with cattle and sheep and chickens. And then we had a couple of ponds and we had tourists. And that's what we did until Gabby got to an age where she needed to go to school. And in South Africa, unfortunately, rural schooling's not up to scratch. She was being taught the wrong way, so to speak, and we moved to the city. And that's actually when LifeSpace started. That was around 2011. And because we were on the ranch, we'd started, there's no customers out in the countryside. There's no customers on the ranch. So we started selling via e-commerce, and we became an e-commerce brand. And our first business was actually antiques and collectibles. It was a passion. It was something we enjoyed doing, especially when you're in the country. You go into different ranches and farms and you pick and you find cool stuff. And we started selling it as a way of income. Our ranch was still going. We had a ranch hand managing our cattle and all the rest. But Sam and I were essentially unemployed. So we turned our hobby into a business, which was antiques and collectibles. The problem with antiques and collectibles, it's very difficult to scale. So you have a great time, but you don't make money. You end up with cool stuff, but you don't really make money. And it's a lot of work. And our second passion and hobby was grilling and outdoor cooking. So we latched onto one of the big companies in South Africa, and we started selling their goods online in parallel with our antiques. There wasn't much synergy. I mean, you can imagine you're selling an antique chair and right next to it, you got a tong and a grill and a whatever. So that didn't quite work out. And then we started scaling down on the antiques, focused more on the grilling gear. And then in about 2013, we launched our own brand. And that's when we decided, listen, you know, there's a couple of points when you sell for other people, but you're getting a small little bit of commission off the top. You're not really making a lot of money. And we traveled abroad. We went and had a look at factories all over the world. And then we launched our own brand and started importing. And that's how we started it in South Africa. And at the moment, we're doing pretty good. We got a couple of retail outlets. We got a couple of guys that we supply. And then we're on all the big platforms, Takealot and Macro, which is like the Walmart. It's owned by Walmart, Amazon, all those guys. Yeah, it's still going today. We've got a couple of really good young dynamic team that runs it for us in South Africa. And yeah, the rest is history. Business is going strong. That's how we got into it.
How did you come up with the name LifeSpace? Is there a meaning behind it, or?
So before COVID, so we were running the antique business, but I also had a second business, which was a construction company. And what we did in the construction company, we were doing a lot of fit outs, commercial fit outs, student accommodation, things like that. And I needed a company that fitted in with pretty much what we were doing, creating spaces for people to live in, hence the word LifeSpace. And my brother actually suggested it to me and said, I've got this cool company, I'm not using it, LifeSpace. And I thought, well, that works with the whole construction sphere. We had good contracts doing, like I said, student accommodation, and we were doing major fit outs, and we were also doing some housing construction and things like that. And that's how LifeSpace came about. And at the time we had LifeSpace Homeware, which was our antique side, and then we had LifeSpace Projects, which was our construction side. And we were running them simultaneously and until COVID came along, and then things changed.
Okay. And what made you decide on USA, and specifically what made you decide Texas out of all the places? That's
quite a long story. The United States, America wasn't our first choice, actually, and purely because we thought it was impossible to get in. When you're living outside of the United States, you hear about all these strict rules and customs and immigrations, and it's impossible to get into America and all these different restrictions. So again, Sam and I had traveled the world. We considered Portugal. We spent some time in Portugal, fantastic country, fantastic food, also got a different kind of grilling culture, which is quite nice. We went to Vietnam, we've been to South America, and we looked at all these countries, but we just couldn't fit in. Europe was off the cards because I can't even spend 2 days indoors without going outside, let alone long grey winters. Australia and New Zealand were options, but they didn't work for us. Their rugby's not good enough. We kick their butt every year, but anyway, there would have been a lot of controversy there. And then we actually eventually settled on Panama, and we became permanent residents of Panama. The problem with Panama was that there's just not enough for our girls to do. Panama is a fantastic country, beautiful weather, nice people, inexpensive. Panama City is a great modern city, but we just couldn't find synergy. We just couldn't assimilate, and it just didn't quite work out. And then a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine, Greg Gow, he invited me on a business trip to the United States, and I'd never been to the United States for some bizarre reason. We were involved in the motorcycle community, and we were looking to do frames and chassis for motorcycles. So we had a meeting in Malibu in Los Angeles, and he invited me with, and he said, well, let's go and check it out. And I said to Sam, well, I'm going with Greg to the United States, let's go and check it out. And we landed in LA. It was a great place. Loved the Pacific Highway. We went to places like Calabasas, but it was so unbelievably expensive. And then the places that were not expensive were not quite the places we would want to raise our kids in. So I phoned Sam and I said to her, listen, the United States is not for us. It's off the cards. And we then flew from LA to Panama. I had a meeting in Panama. Meeting went well. We had a good week there, and I phoned Sam. I said, no, Panama's the place. This is where we're going to be. We'll figure it out for the girls. We'll make a plan. And then from Panama, we flew to Houston. And when we landed in Houston, the very first person we met was at the car rental counter. And the response between LA and Houston was like, are we in the same country? Is this like, are we in the same place? I immediately felt just a different connection when we landed in Texas. We then spent about a couple of days in Houston. We had a few meetings there, and I said to Greg, well, we in Texas, let's make the most of it. So we went to San Antonio and went to Austin, and I phoned Sam. I said, listen, I'll take back what I said about the United States. And she was like, she wasn't convinced, because in her mind, we were going to Panama, She couldn't wait to get the girls out of South Africa. Like I said, you're living in this constant underlying fear, especially as a woman. But I convinced her, and I said, listen, come with me to Texas. I flew back to South Africa then with Greg, by the way, and I convinced her, and I said, listen, come with me to Texas. Let's do another trip before we commit to Panama. And she came over, and she also loved it. She enjoyed New Braunfels and enjoyed Houston. And then, of course, we had friends, Keith and Lee, in Austin, and they took us around and showed us around. We met them at the Salt Lick, actually. That was my first introduction to Texas barbecue, what was at the Salt Lick. And she loved it as well. And that's how we ended up with Texas.
Okay. And how was that adjustment when y'all moved over here, getting used to everything over here?
So, look, leaving South Africa was really tough. I just have to tell you, we had a beautiful big home in Cape Town. I mean, like, with all the bells and whistles, swimming pools, indoor grill area, outdoor grill area, everything a guy would want for a pit room or a braai room or a grill room. We had a warehouse, we had minimal debts. It's inexpensive. So it was really, really, really hard making that decision to leave. And then, of course, we had to sell everything. Stuff that we'd had forever. And even the girls had to leave all their friends behind, leave our family behind. At the time, I've got a son in South Africa, by the way. His name's Brandon. And at the time, he was going through a rough time in his life. So I didn't get to say goodbye to him properly. So that was like really, really tough. I haven't seen him now for like 2 or 3 years. We talk now. He clawed himself out of a really dark place. And he's doing well now. But giving up everything in South Africa was probably the toughest thing we've ever done. And I remember one day we sold our couch, and it was just a leather couch. I mean, it's a piece of furniture, but it was one of the first pieces of furniture that Sam and I'd ever bought, this expensive lounge suite. And you sort of reminisce about all the friends that had come over and people that had crashed on that couch after a braai, and Gabby was born on it, Emma was born on it. And the day that couch left, it was the last item to leave our house, because we'd sold off all our furniture, sold the properties, sold everything. And when that couch left, everyone just broke down and cried, because it was like physically saying goodbye to your past life. and then saying, okay, now we're moving on to our new life. So it was tough. It was really, really, really tough. But then, we actually floated around South Africa for a bit. The couch left, and then we were on our way to the United States. And then there was this, COVID had ended, but they hadn't quite opened all the borders yet. We had freedom of movement around South Africa, but the United States hadn't opened their border yet. So we actually found ourselves for about 8 months without a home. I remember us actually getting into it. We had a Ford SUV, and we left Cape Town, and I think it was Gabby or Emma said, well, where are we going? And we didn't know, because we were supposed to go to America, but those borders had been closed. And we ended up staying at a friend's house, and he set us up for about 6 months, and then the border opened, and then we were rebooking flights, then the border closed again. It was just an absolutely chaotic time. And it starts making you rethink, have we made the right decision? Is this the right thing to do? Mm-hmm. But eventually then the border opened. We booked our flights, took our suitcases, and we left for Houston. And when we landed, luckily, and I say luckily, Keith and Lee, they had an Airbnb in Buda. So for the first month, they set us up. The house was fully furnished. Obviously, we only had our suitcases. We didn't have any furniture. I remember we rented a truck, actually a car, a Kia. We rented a Kia for the first month on Turo or something like that. First thing I did was drive to Walmart, and I bought like a $25 grill, one of those square ones. And we moved into the Airbnb. We didn't even unpack our case, and we lit the fire and had our first sort of braai in Texas. And it was really exciting. I mean, that first month, going into an HEB, the kids I'd been here because I'd been to Texas a few times. So I sort of knew more or less what to expect, but the girls didn't. And going to the HEB and a Walmart and silly things that get taken for granted now every day was like brand new to us. Going to Cabela's and Bass Pro Shop was like, wow. It was like, you don't get that kind of stuff in South Africa. The first month was holiday, man. That's all we did, was just enjoy what Texas had to offer. It was fantastic.
So how long did it take you to, I guess, get started with the company once you got here?
So look, the company, we'd started already in 2018 or 2019. We'd registered an LLC in Texas, because you must remember the plans were already in place before COVID hit. COVID just put everything on hold. So the company was there. We had already started listing product onto Amazon. We'd been doing online and e-commerce work for about 10 years already. So we knew what to do. We knew the online space. We didn't quite understand, well, let me rephrase it. We didn't understand American barbecue culture at all. Like, you come here with preconceived ideas, and it's completely the opposite to what you expect. While there's a lot of similarities to braai and grilling and barbecue, and they all relate to outdoor cooking, the techniques, the equipment, everything that goes with it it's completely different. So we had preconceived ideas which were completely wrong, so we threw them out the window. But then it took us, I'm not gonna lie, I'll say the first month was a holiday. The first year was actually a holiday. It just flew. We were working, but we weren't really working. We were still focused on South Africa because our mind was in South Africa. We had a young management team in South Africa. COVID gave us a very good opportunity, by the way, to develop working remotely. So that worked for us really well. But we were spending a lot of time working on our South African business as opposed to focusing on the US business. The US business was ticking along, but not really doing anything. We'd wake up in the morning and we'd deal with the South African team. We'd go shopping, and it's quite a lot more expensive in the US. So we'd phone them, send us some money, send us some money. The South African business was growing and it was doing well. And then it was about a year in, our immigration attorney phoned us. I'll never forget the day. We just pulled into Costco. We were buying some supplies. And he said to us, listen, guys, I don't want to spoil your honeymoon. He says, but either you're going to start working or you're going back to South Africa. And we sat in the car, and Sam and I looked at each other. It was just the two of us. And we said, oh dear, you must read the room. And right there, we turned it around. So it was about a year later that we said, okay, now we need to get stuck in. And then we threw everything. We appointed 1 or 2 new people in South Africa remotely, people we haven't even met yet. But that's the beauty with technology. You can get a lot done remotely. And we actually then delegated South Africa over to the team there. And funny enough, they're actually doing a better job than we were. It's one of the things I've had to learn the hard way, is delegating. that's another story. But anyway, we then focused on our US business. Sam got stuck in, I got stuck in. We started looking at our listings. We started refining what we were doing. And then we started seeing ticking up. Then we had obviously certain requirements that we had to fulfill for immigration. We weren't here for a holiday. America wasn't just going to be our playground. We actually had to put some effort in. And for the last 3 years, we've been grinding, and our journeys, it's been good. So it's been good to us.
Okay. And how did you get introduced to competition barbecue? Who introduced you to that?
So the first person that actually reached out to me was Derek Strelsky from Texas BBQ. We were playing in the online space, like I told you, and we were getting committed to eBay, Walmart, Amazon, all these different channels. And next minute I get a call from this guy. Hi, I'm Derek Strelsky from Texas BBQ. I met him, and Derek introduced me to a number of people. So he was my first introduction to competition barbecue. And there was just a lot of synergy. I like Derek. He's a solid stand-up guy. He tells you the way things are. He says it straight up. He doesn't mince his words. And I like that. I like those kind of people. You know where you stand with him. And I then ended up at the state championship at the high school. We turned out to be a sponsor and a vendor at the National High School Barbecue in Burnet, Texas. And then through there, we met Ronnie and Kathy Pullen. Derek introduced us to them, and then we got on really well with Ronnie, and we met a bunch of other people. I actually met Todd Johns there for the very first time, and a number of people that were involved in youth development and youth barbecue. But Kathy Pullen was the one that changed a lot of things for us. We then got an invite to attend her event down in Port O'Connor. And that was the funniest thing, I've just got to tell you. Sorry, my mouth goes dry when I talk so much. So we get invited to her event, which is Give Domestic Violence the Boot. Mm-hmm. I like what she's doing, and the cause resonated with us. At the time, we had this perception that it's quite a small event and it's in a village down in Texas, not a village, but Port O'Connor is not a big place. But we went, and let me tell you, that was probably the best decision we've made since we've landed in Texas, because Kathy is a fantastic person. I mean, she goes out of her way to make things happen and to make things happen for you. And she put us in a big house. I mean, I think it was 6 bedrooms or 7 bedrooms or something like this out on the beach in Port O'Connor with a whole bunch of people that we didn't know. So it was only Sam and I, and we had one of the bedrooms, and then a whole lot of other people were staying in different bedrooms. And we arrived at this place, and hello, how are you? I'm introduced. One of the guys I introduced, hi, I'm Rob. He goes, I'm Cal Phelps. I didn't know who Cal Phelps was. I never clue, And then I met the Caden family, the Blake family. I met Caden, didn't know who he was. Thyron Matthews was cooking next to me, didn't know who he was. He was like legendary. He came and used one of our knives. Captain Ron, I mean, what a great guy. There was just synergy with Captain Ron. Also didn't know who he was. And I just met all these people, and I just treated them, and they treated me like you would anybody else. And as the weekend progressed, people started telling me, that he's this and he's that and he's NBBQA and this one's that. And I met Doug Hassel from the Hassel Cattle Company and all these people. And I realized, man, I'm sitting here amongst legends. And then Thyron Matthews comes up to you and he goes, hey, brother, you hungry? He's bringing me like ribs and pork belly, the best pork belly I've ever eaten in my life. And that was a game changer for us. Having Thyron cook next to us, and even his manager, Anthony, very knowledgeable guy, gave us such good advice that weekend. And that's how it then just grew. Started going to more events, meeting more people. Yeah, that's pretty much how I got into the competition barbecue side.
Okay. And do you have your products made? How do your products, y'all get them made specifically from a company, or how did that go with your products?
So again, Sam and I have been privileged enough to have traveled to many countries in the world. And what we did is we've subsequently worked out a couple of factories that really work well for us abroad, good companies, and we rigorously test our products. So in South Africa, we have about 500 unique LifeSpace branded products. South Africa, we do a lot more than we do here. We do anything to do with outdoor space, outdoor living. So it's not just grilling. We do a range of outdoor furniture, for example, cast aluminium furniture. We do some kitchen furniture. We do all kinds of stuff. Knives, grilling gear, grills. So we have our own range of kettle grills and offset smokers and things like that in South Africa. So we put them through the tests. The first thing we did is we use them ourselves. We make sure we like them and we're happy with them. We then also look at value. One of the things we try and offer the most is you can give somebody a Rolls Royce, but not everyone can afford a Rolls Royce. They just need a good car, good value that works. So that's where we focused a lot of our energy on, is how do we give good value, good quality, and good functionality. And those are the three principles that we work on. Not always the most expensive, not always the cheapest, but just good value, where if you're working with a knife or a grill and you're finished with it, let's say, you think you've got, you believe you've got good value out of it. And that's what we do. That process took us through a number of products that we discarded, money that we wasted, but we eventually then identified we've probably got about 8 or 9, maybe 10 factories that we rely on now. They know our specifications, they know what we're looking for. And we've been working with some companies now for 10 years, and that's really how we do our product selection. When we grow new products, it's a little bit different. You then experiment, we get samples sent over. That's a bit of an expensive process because now you're looking at a range. We'll work on it. We'll bring in a range of new knives. For example, we're doing an SCA knife, to give you one example. And to have a knife that classifies as an SCA knife, it's got to be a good knife. The SCA is a big organization. You're not going to just put a knife out there that's flimsy and rubbish. So we brought in about 20 knives and presented them to Ken and Brett. Said to them, all right, guys, let's work on something. Something that's good enough for the SCA, but also affordable enough for SCA members and everybody else for that matter. So then we'll go through that process, and that process started about sort of 8 months ago, and we're only now at the point where knives will be landing in a couple of weeks or months' time, 2 months' time. So that's pretty much how we select our products. It goes through a rigorous process. We make sure we use it. We abuse them a lot, and we use it, and then if it's good enough, we say, okay, let's put it into production, and then we take it from there, and then we bring it to market.
Yeah, I like that one that y'all gave the kids at Memphis and May. That was nice.
Yeah, listen, that knife went down well. Those are carbon steel blades. A lot of people don't like carbon steel because obviously it requires maintenance. But carbon steel is like super sharp. They easy to work with. They're just nice knives. We're actually giving the similar knives. It comes in a range. We've launched an initiative with SCA where we do the perfect score. And anybody that gets a perfect score through any of the SCA events in America only, they get one of those knives, and then we put their name on it and make it something special. So again, adding value.
Yeah, that's cool how y'all put the logos and stuff on there. It's cool.
So the funny thing is that also started with, I suppose, adding value. Again, we realized that people are looking for something else. You can go to Walmart and buy a knife. Why would you buy a LifeSpace knife? You can go to Walmart and get good knives. But LifeSpace knives just feel different. They're directly linked to the barbecue community. And then we bring in that personal element. We can put your name on it. We give them out as prizes. We use them for sponsorships. So the knives are more than just a knife. It becomes part of the barbecue journey, and it feels good. I like it. Taking someone's logo and putting it onto a blade is pretty cool. We actually got 4 perfect scores last weekend. It's like crazy. I'm going, wait a minute. But it's cool. People are working towards it, and there's incentive now, and that incentive is important. Yeah, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, but a lot of pitmasters, real pitmasters, they put a lot of effort as far as when it comes to their knives and making sure they're sharp and the good knives. So it's a very important utensil that people use. And some people probably, it's when it comes to cutting your meat and getting a good slice out of it, it's very important. So people try to downplay, you can use any knife. No, you can't use any knife because it's not going to slice like it's supposed to. And it's not going to last you a long time. So,
well, I concur completely. the beauty is, we have so many pit masters now using our knives, which is quite important. The other thing we do, and I want to make 2 points here. One is, I mentioned meeting Thyron Matthews down at Port O'Connor. I mean, about 3 weeks ago, just before he left now for the Hume Festival, out of the blue, I get a phone call. I didn't even know he had my number. Hey, brother, I need some knives. Yeah, and when Thyron Matthews phones you and needs some knives, then you know you're doing something right. Now, adding to that is we listen to the pit masters, and they say to us, I need this blade. So one of the things we're developing, which is also arriving soon with the SCA knives, is a 14-inch slicing knife and an 18-inch slicing knife. Because a lot of the competition cooks have their briskets inside a cradle. And most of the 12-inch knives, you're busy slicing and they're hitting against the side. A lot of the guys use electric knives. Great, whatever works for you. But that's part of what we do. Now, you're not just going to pick up an 18-inch knife anyway. They're not freely available. And that's part of what we do, is we listen to what the cooks need, and then we try and make that happen. I like to think we can make things happen. Sam and I have got a lot of experience in sourcing. It's one of our strengths. And we that's pretty cool, is giving them the right tools, and I agree with you completely. That's important.
Yeah. And how is it having your daughters be involved with what you're doing also? How does that feel?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So I think leaving South Africa, and we'll go back to leaving South Africa, for them it was really tough. Emma was 12, Gabby was 17. Very awkward ages. Leave your friends behind, leave your school behind, leave your community behind, your family, your support structure, leave everything behind. So it was very, very important that they believed in what we were doing. It wasn't as hard as you think, to be honest, because they were old enough to realize that they were living in this constant level of tension. You couldn't go to a supermarket without there being a hijacking or some sort of violence or gunfire. I mean, I don't want to talk about the negative side of South Africa too much, because it's a fantastic place. But it was sort of easy to get them to move, because you sleep at night with one eye open, But then the problem was landing here and keeping a positive frame of mind. That was tough. That was probably more difficult than actually leaving for them. Gabby is an extremely independent person, got high work ethics, very independent, likes to do her own things. And her biggest frustration was landing here at 17 and not being able to get a job. That frustrated. Our visa restrictions were such that she was not allowed to work. All these jobs were around, people were looking, every single window had a sign up, help wanted, but she couldn't do it. The encouraging thing was she couldn't get a job, but she was allowed to start a business. So that's what she did. She started the Craft Cottage, Texas, and she applied herself to it. She had a scholarship through Texas State. She's now a senior, and in between she started this business called Craft Cottage. And man, it's just exploded. I mean, some of her videos I think her one video has got like 15 million views, tens of thousands of likes. She's got orders going to Japan. She's got orders going all over the world, and she's closed her order book, I think, for already September or October. So that helped Gabby. And to answer your question, getting the girls involved, push them out of their comfort zone, force them into something that they might not have done in South Africa. And it's just worked out for her. She's now got a thriving business, growing business. She's got companies from Georgia, all over America that now want to collaborate with her. And she can't wait to finish her degree. She's got one more year. She's a marketing major at McCoy School of Business. And she's going to become an entrepreneur. She's loving it. So that wouldn't have happened in South Africa. So that was fantastic. And then Emma, on the other hand, I mean, she was 12. It was very difficult. No friends. They were homeschooled. We then looked at stuff for her to do. And again, that's why I love America. I mean, America, you got to work your butt off, but there are so many opportunities here. And we started looking, and one of the opportunities we found for her was CAP, was the Civil Air Patrol. We looked at this and we said, this is a nice youth program. She was 12 years old, and they run from 12 to 18 is how the Civil Air Patrol works. And we said to her, would you be interested? And she says, yeah, that looks fun. When? We said, well, the first meeting's tonight. And we took her, and she immediately liked it. But again, we had other stumbling blocks, because she wasn't an American citizen, she couldn't just sign up. So she went to every meeting. Every Tuesday night there's a meeting, and it's the one thing we don't miss. Like you'll see on Tuesday night is cap night. That's just how it is. And for about the first 3 months, she went in civilian clothes, and all the new kids around her and her peers, they were ranking up. They'd had uniform already. I had to first get permission from the Texas wing. Then it had to go to national, so it had to go to Virginia. And eventually they said, yes, we can accept her. She's just flourished. She's just passed her Billy Mitchell Award. She's now a lieutenant in the Civil Air Patrol. There's talk that she may be the wing commander very soon. She's doing well at school. She's also doing dual credits, so she's almost finished her first year of college. And she's the LifeSpace Youth Ambassador. So again, pushing her out of her comfort zone, she just thrived. It's been a blessing for the girls, to be honest. It's been great.
Yeah, that's definitely cool. I seen them around Memphis in May, and I see a lot of, they be on a lot of your social media things, and I was like, they're doing good, especially at a young age. It's getting them exposure to doing different things, being in front of the crowd and get familiar with people, and just basically getting life skills. That's what you're teaching them, because they're going to need this whatever they do. If they want to do that, or if they want to do something else in the business world, they got to learn how to interact with people, talk to people. And it's what you're doing is excellent, just getting them ready for the real world, because a lot of these skills they're going to have, because a lot of kids today, they're not able to do that. They're not able to hold a conversation. They're not able to talk professionally to people or handle business. So what you're doing is getting them ready early for the business world, regardless if they stay in LifeSpace or do something else. So yeah, you got the right idea.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think, I don't want to say our life's predetermined or whatever, but things happen for a reason, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that she joined the Civil Air Patrol. Civil Air Patrol is all about developing leaders, and it's a youth program run by the youth. So obviously they have mentors and there are adults there, but all the planning, whether they do a summer encampment, winter encampment, leadership training in Nacogdoches. We go to Nacogdoches every year so that she can do sort of leadership courses and workshops and camps. But they teach them how to go out into the world and how to stand up. And one of my proudest moments with Emma was watching her. She was 14 at the time, so she'd been in the Civil Air Patrol for 2 years. She had just turned 14, and they made her the Master of Ceremonies. And it was the end of the year award, and there were about probably 40 cadets or so, and as many adults. And I watched her stand up on stage and say a few words with such confidence, where I would have stumbled and bumbled and muttered and got it all wrong. And that's when I realized, man, this is good. You know, the opportunities are there. And then, like you mentioned, Memphis on May, for her to stand on the same stage as Tavis Bryant, for example, he was one of the mentors for the youth cook-off this year. To be in that same crowd is like, that's mind-blowing, man. You know, it's like those things only happen in America. So it's like, that's awesome. You know, that's all I can say. Yeah, it's been really good for our girls, and it's been tough. It's been hard. They cry, you know, lots. There's been tears. Obviously, I don't want to make it sound like it's all just been glory, but it's been tough. We have a rule in our house. You're allowed to cry for 1 day, and that's it. After that, you dust yourself off, you get up and you start moving forward. We don't have time for pity parties. You know, we're in this together. We make it work. That's all. We move forward.
Definitely. And also, like you said, that the barbecue community, that's what hooked me into barbecue, because when I started during COVID, I didn't know what to do. I went to somebody's house, saw a pellet grill for the first time, because growing up, all I saw was the little square, cheap black grills that we used. And I had quit a few times, because every time I tried to grill on my own, because I moved out at 17 and was living on my own, and everything tasted, I always used too much lighter fluid because I didn't know about any of that. So quit a few times, and then that's when I got the pellet grill. Things got easier, and then I got more interested in it and thought about competing and didn't know where to start. So that's when I met my wife around that time. We were dating. She had bought me the Myron Mixon barbecue class. I went to that and just started going to different classes, and then started walking around different events, just meeting people and meeting people and meeting people. And I was like, I like this, and it because people was friendly. They wasn't telling you to go on about your business, leave us alone, or anything. They were welcoming. They were friendly. They were giving their phone numbers, and hey, you need anything, any advice, just call me. Just call me, and that's what hooked me in. Just going to different events, and I was going to start competing, but then my daughter was born, so that's when I said I was going to stay home while my daughter get a little older, and that's when I shifted into the podcast space. And from then on, that's when I really started meeting people and going out to different events and getting opportunities. And like I said, the barbecue community is, like I said, is second to none. And as far as the people that I've been involved with, and there's plenty of opportunities. They'll welcome you, call you, anything like that. Like, I'm in Georgia, like Kel and them, but they stay south of me, but they rolled out to welcome Matt for me, and different other people in barbecue just took me under their wing and helped me and stuff and promote my podcast when I wouldn't. I mean, just last year, this didn't even exist. And now I've been doing it a full year. And there's people out there in the barbecue world that's sharing my podcast with other people. And now it's taking off a little bit. And I like, here I am just because of other people and hard work. Like I said, I teach my daughter hard work. If they don't get nothing from me, they're going to see he works hard, because I work a full-time job, do this, go to the comps, walk around, and take care of my family and stuff. But they're going to know daddy hard work, because I got a 2-year-old and a 10-year-old. So that's.
But you know, that's what's so beautiful about this whole thing. And that's what I love about America and about the barbecue community in particular. So it's very family community driven. And here's the thing, you put in the effort, you get the rewards. You know, don't sit there and be a slacker. You know, don't sit there and moan and be a victim. We haven't got time for victims. And the barbecue community is a lot like that. And they look at you and they see you grinding and they see you put the effort in. They welcome you. And that's what I love, you know, and I compare the barbecue community to the biker community as well. They're very much like a brotherhood, family, not necessarily stick together. I don't want to make that sound like it's isolation, but help each other grow, develop each other. I love that. For me, that's what it's all about, because without people like, I mean, and there's so many names, I can't even mention them all, but without people like Cal and Janet and the NBBQA, I mean, anybody that's not part of the NBBQA should be part of the NBBQA if you're involved in barbecue. But, you know, Kathy Pullen, Derek Stralski, Ken and Brett from the SCA, just so many people that we've met. Yeah, it's crazy. The community is awesome. It's big, but it's small, and everybody helps each other. I love that. I really do.
Yeah, and Kathy probably don't know my name, but I probably talk to her more than I talked to anybody at the NBBQA, because I was under the tent where she was at a lot of the time. So we were just in there chit-chatting a lot of time. But yeah, I second that. As far as the NBBQA, is you learn, you get to relax, have fun, you get to learn about different things that you normally don't get to have an opportunity to do. You get to ask the questions that you always wanted to know, regardless of what subject it is. They got the events out there that you can watch, and it's very, like I said, it's fellowship. And like I said, that was my first time going to it, and I enjoyed it because I was wondering, like, okay, I'm a podcaster, what am I get out of it? But I was like, I'm gonna go anyway, because I want to support Kel and Miss Janet, because they're awesome people, and I enjoyed it. Like, they'll see me every year.
Yeah, you'll see me there too, that's for sure. And you know, getting back to Kathy, you should she's got some really good stuff happening this year. Her events later in the year give domestic violence the boot. But yeah, she's got beautiful raffle going. You guys can win a boat. I mean, it's something you should look into. Support Kathy. She does good stuff. I must just add that in.
Oh yeah, definitely. I plan on getting her on the show and hear her story also. All right, let's talk about the BizBox. Could you give us a little information on that and tell people how they can do that also?
So BizBox, okay. So the BizBox came about, where did it start? We started attending a lot of events. People liked the knives, you know, they were just drawn to the table. And then what happened is we started hearing one universal complaint. And the one thing that we kept hearing was that it's expensive. You know, it's expensive to to compete. It's expensive to attend the events. It's expensive to go to the Royal and the regional events and to qualify for the Jack and all these big tournaments. Even just to the costs have become inhibitive. Beef prices are through the roof. And at the same time, we also started getting invites to a lot of different events. I mean, Texas has every single weekend, there's probably 5 different barbecue events happening at any given time. And we can't attend them all. It's impossible. And also you need the odd weekend off. You want to chill in the backyard or whatever. And we then thought, well, let's establish the BizBox for 2 reasons. One is we met a lot of other vendors trying to sell seasoning, trying to sell their sauces, trying to sell whatever handmade goods they're making. And we thought because we're the direct importer, the direct manufacturer, we've got room to pass some of that profit onto other vendors. So for us, it worked twofold. One is that people could generate a second revenue stream or an additional revenue stream, or even have a revenue stream, make some money to offset some of the costs to attend competitions and to compete. Or for vendors, for example, to add an addition. I mean, you're at the event already, you're putting up your tent, you're selling your seasonings, why not sell some knives? And that was the first reason. So it helps people make more money. That's the bottom line. Second of all, it also works for us. It gets our brand out there, more people selling LifeSpace, more people know about us. If we can't get to all the events, well, let's get our knives there at least. So far, yeah, it's been good. We got a couple of, the minute a vendor starts reordering and they got to replenish, then you know it's good. We've got like cracked rib seasonings. They're doing fantastically well. They're flying. We've got Williams Ace Hardware up in Pennsylvania. I was at an event on Sunday and he was at an event and he actually sent me some photos to show me how sharp our knives were, and he had a big hole in his leg. I mean, he dropped a cleaver. And I mean, thank goodness he was okay. But you sort of go, well, that's dedicated marketing, and a cleaver onto his leg. But they were doing well. And then we've got a guy in New Braunfels, for example. He makes boards, cutting boards, and beautiful. I mean, really, really good stuff. And he now pairs our knives with these boards. He's at the event, the board's laying there, you're taking up the same amount of retail counter space, put 3 knives on, you're doubling your income. And that's how the BizBox came about. It was a way for us to move product, get our name out there and help people generate more money. And so far, so good. Yeah, well, I think it's going to do well. We've got a couple of ambitions for it and a couple of goals and ideas, and we're going to push it.
Yeah, definitely good idea. All right, that's all the questions I have. I'm going to play a quick game with you and get you out of here. All right, I came up with 16 meats that you cook on the grill, and I mashed them up against each other. And I'm going to give you each matchup. Just tell me which one you prefer to eat, and we'll see which one is the winner. All right, the first matchup is brisket versus hot dog. Which one do you prefer to eat?
Is that even a question? Brisket.
All right, smoked chicken versus pork chop.
I might go for a pork chop.
Okay.
Tavis, I just got to tell you, chicken in South Africa is considered a vegetable. So I just want to put that out there. It's like a vegetarian grill.
Really?
Yeah, it's a joking thing, So
I got to tell why they say that.
Amongst the guys, the guys hang around, they have a few beers, guys pull out ribeye steaks or lamb chops or whatever, and then someone pulls out chicken, they go, we've got a vegetarian amongst us. This is the joke. I think I'd go for the pork chop.
Yeah, definitely. All right, pork ribs versus lamb.
I would choose lamb. Lamb is a South African dish, it's a staple. Lamb chops so boerewors and lamb chops are probably the 2 most grilled braai meats in South Africa.
Oh, okay. All right, steak versus pork belly.
That's a tough. Yeah, the problem what comes to mind is a Thyron Matthews pork belly, and there just ain't anything better than that. But a good ribeye is pretty good. I think I'd go with a ribeye. Good steak.
All right. Next matchup is beef ribs versus barbecue shrimp.
Beef rib. Can't beat a dino rib. It's the best bite in barbecue, in my opinion.
All right. Next matchup is hamburger versus smoked bologna.
Hamburger. Okay. Good smash burger is good.
All right. Next matchup is sausage versus smoked ham.
So getting back to the lamb and boerewors, it depends on the sausage. We do a traditional boerewors. Boerewors translates to farmer's sausage, and it's a coarse ground beef and pork sausage. So I think I'd have to go with sausage if it's boerewors. But if it's If it's Frank's or something like that, then probably not. But if it's boerewors, I'd go with the sausage.
All right. Next matchup, smoked turkey versus burnt ends.
Burnt ends.
Okay. And next round is brisket versus pork chop.
Brisket.
Okay. All right. Next matchup is lamb versus steak.
It's a tough one. You're putting me under pressure here. I think I'd go with a good lamb chop.
Okay. All right. Next matchup is beef ribs versus hamburger.
Beef rib. If it's a dino rib, it's got to be.
Okay. All right. Sausage versus burnt ends.
Man, that's tough. Why are we supposed to choose? I'd go with a good boerewors.
Okay. All right. Final four. Okay. You got brisket versus lamb.
Lamb chop. I'd go with a lamb chop.
Okay. All right. And the beef ribs versus sausage.
Beef rib. I already know the winner.
All right. And your winner is?
Beef rib is the best. I love a good lamb chop on a braai. Crispy fat, but that beef rib, man, a dino rib, it's the best meat bite, I think, out there. So beef rib for me.
All right. Beef rib is the winner. All right. Your therapy session is over. And if you want to promote your website and stuff like that and social media things, you can do that at this time.
So our social media pages are at LifeSpace Int, LifeSpace INT, and our website is www.lifespaceus.com. Yeah, look out for us at events. I love meeting people. I want to talk to as many people as I can. Our next one is actually Lynchburg, Tennessee. And then we're off to South Carolina. We're off to the Jack in October. We're going to be there. And then we're doing the NBBQA live fire event. So we're going to be all over the show. Look out for us. I'm interested to meet as many people as we can. I love the barbecue community.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't get to make it over there at Memphis in May. I saw y'all over there when I came in, but Smoking Brothers had me over there guest podcast hosting, so I was over there interviewing people, so I didn't get a chance to come over there and because I wanted to get some of the knives, but I definitely will be looking for you.
Yeah, likewise. I was supposed to come over. I remember when we arrived, Bob said, come for an interview. And I said, yeah. But we got so busy. It was just an event with so many people. I mean, it was a great event. I just have to tell you. I can't wait for next year. We're definitely there. We had a great time. But listen, I've enjoyed today. It's been fantastic. It's been nice talking to you. You've taken me down memory lane. It's been pretty cool.
All right. I definitely appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Like I said, I try to reach out to different avenues of barbecue because everything is important that goes into barbecue and just not competitors and stuff, and hearing different voices. And you have a unique lane that people and a good product that people need to hear about. So I'm going to do my part of promoting people within the barbecue world that I brag on, that people want to know why I love barbecue so much and why I always talk about barbecue. So I started the podcast so people can hear what I'm bragging on and all the people that's in barbecue that do different things that are amazing and share their story. So that's why I do this.
Here's the thing, you can't have the one without the other. You ain't going to cook meat without fire. You need the charcoal guys. You need to slice the meat. You need the grills. So it's just one massive big community, which is awesome.
Exactly. All right. Well, I definitely appreciate you coming on, everybody, and we'll see y'all next episode.
Thanks for happening.
Thank you for joining us for another therapy session. And remember, like, follow, and subscribe to help the barbecue therapy community. And also visit our website at www.bbqtherapypodcast.com.